We are back, people. What's up? Going through more training camp previews, breaking down some players, but really, we gone through the D line, the tight ends, the safeties, the receivers. Now we're going to the O line, which is a little bit different because all these groups. We were watching some guys fight for their roster spots, but the O line, we're gonna watch some people fight for roster spots, but also talk about who's gonna win some of the starting spots because those aren't locked in either, especially on the interior. Definitely an interesting group. Lots of players to run through here, so we'll get through as many as possible. At least the guys that I have a good grasp on as players. The guys who are definitely going to be around. So we'll definitely get into all of that. I got some clips pulled up on different players. At least get through some of them. And I also want to talk about like roster construction because I've talked about this before. But when it comes to like the offensive side of the ball, you can keep an extra guy, I think, at one spot. And I've been saying I would do that at offensive line, just considering injuries, considering the talent at the position the Dolphins have. I would rather keep that extra body at the offensive line, like keep a fifth tackle like Keon Smith, and you can also keep Kendall Lamb, obviously. And then you can keep your normal numbers at receiver, running back, tight end, instead of keeping that extra body. But we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, injuries play, a factor in all of that too. But we'll let people get in here. Let people share their thoughts, things like that. Let me just pull it up and make sure I'm good. Okay. Here. What's up? And, okay, everything looks pretty, flashbang. Everything looks pretty good. Yeah, we're live, nice. I guess we can just talk about Armstead first, because, don't have to spend too much time on Armstead. Definitely the best player on the Dolphins offensive line. His biggest problem is obviously staying healthy. He did say this is like the healthiest he's ever felt at this part of like the offseason, which is a good thing. So obviously him staying healthy is always a big help, a big boost to the offense. You can always super rely on him. He's a great scheme fit, super athlete, like great veteran presence. Really his only downside as a player is is his availability. Like he doesn't play a full season. So if we get like a majority of games out of him, I think that's pretty good. I do feel better about the tackle spots anyways when it comes to like the starters and the depth. Because at right tackle, they have Austin Jackson who stepped up last year, Armstead at left tackle, and then I think they have pretty solid depth across the board. We'll let people swing through here, drop some comments down below. Let me see, when people are in here, how you guys are doing, what's up. But yeah, Armstead, just super veteran, super nuanced player too. He's very fun, especially like some of his old film is so good too, because he's like one of the best, like when it comes to like snatching people in the game, like that snatch and trap technique. Really understands how to use his hands. It's always, like, and him and Tua have a lot of respect for each other, which is cool too. So Armstead in the room. Don't need to spend too much time talking about Terron Armstead, but obviously a lock, obviously a starter. Biggest question marks with him is staying healthy, and that's why I was saying like some of the offensive linemen have some injury problems. I think you keep that extra instead of keeping 9 O-line, because a lot of teams keep 9. If they're going to keep an extra body on somewhere across the O-line or across the whole offense, I'd rather keep like a 10th offensive lineman than like a 7th receiver or an extra running back or an extra tight end, personally. Yeah, and then we can go to... Who should we go to next? Let's go to Austin Jackson, actually. Austin Jackson, kind of the breakout player last year. Obviously Dolphins drafted him in the first round. I think it was 18th overall 4 years ago. Still very young. I think the biggest thing about it is like they drafted him when he was 20 years old. I mean, first of all, look at him moving out in space, getting after Roquan Smith. I think this system has really helped him out because last year was really his first chance to play in the McDaniel system because he barely played during McDaniel's first season because of injuries. He's always had like a nasty type of play style, not the strongest player, but when he's moving forward, he'll go after it in the running game or out in the screen game like we just saw. But he really improved just in pass protection, overall consistency. I think the scheme definitely helped him there. Like just all around keeping like making his job much easier. He really got to show his stuff right away in the Chargers game, going one-on-one versus Bosa a lot. Like I had a lot of reps, really good hand usage there, winning the hand fight. Really like the improvements that Austin Jackson showed. So I got to give him a lot of respect. They got him on a pretty nice contract too when you look at him compared to other tackles around the league with that mid-season extension that they gave him. So lots of props to him. He's still very young, so I think he's like 25, 26 going into like his second contract, which is really good. Or he might even be, what is Austin Jackson's age? I think he's 25. Let me look it up real quick. Because I think they drafted him when he was like 20. He was on like that 2021 range right there. So, hold on, I'm typing with one hand. He's 24. Okay. He's 24 and he'll turn 25 in like about a little over a month. Yeah. Damn, he's so young. That's crazy. That's actually insane. But yeah, Jackson's an absolute stud. Like, really, he is, like, he still has some things to work on, but like he improved so much, and I gotta give him all the credit, like, because he was one of those guys that I think Dolphins fans kind of just gave up on, because usually after 3 years it's like, okay, it's over. But when he was drafted, he was very young. There were some things he was working through. I remember, can't remember exactly what it was, but I know it was like some bone thing with his sister or something that he had to like transfer it over. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, definitely happy for Austin Jackson. Definitely one of the better stories of last season. I don't know how many people are in here, but we'll just keep running it through. That's a lot of the Austin Jackson clips. Let's see, I have some more here actually. Here versus some Washington clips. Just a lot of isolated. They do a lot of those like play action stuff too to really, help him get isolated one-on-one looks. He just became a lot better with his hands. And he got a lot. He played with better play strength too, and just showed better recovery overall, which I think is big for him. Winning his one-on-ones, passing off that stunt there is nice work. Really aggressive with it too. We'll go back and actually take a look at that. Like, you really want to send him to your right guard because your guy is crashing down. So really help your right guard there and then get out of it. Boom. Stay square. Stay patient. Love that work out of Jackson. Just a lot of things to be excited about with him. Feel pretty confident when it comes to your tackle position overall. We've talked about the starters now with Armstead and Austin. Left tackle, right tackle. Pretty quality group when you think about it. Armstead's still one of the better players in the league. Just kind of struggles to stay healthy. And Jackson is kind of a young ascending player that proved that he can play better as it goes on. But yeah, feel good about Jackson. The tackle group overall, we might as well just go through the whole tackles. Kendall Lamb, I would say Kendall Lamb's like your next tackle. He's your main swing tackle. It's his last season. Because he even said like this would be his last season. He'll retire after this. But he's a reliable swing tackle. He did his job pretty well. He's also has good left tackle and right tackle versatility. Like, he can play both spots. So if Jackson or Armstead gone down, he's proven to be a pretty solid, reliable guy, especially in pass protection. Wouldn't say he's like the greatest run blocker of all time, but he gets the job done. Not too much to say there. I think another reason I've said about keeping like 10 offensive linemen, because I think that's how you keep Keon Smith and Kendall Lamb, because you want to keep 5 tackles, and then you keep 4 guards, and then your center, and then Eichenberg would be a guard/center. And then Keon Smith would replace Lamb as your swing tackle next season, while Patrick Paul is supposed to be your future left tackle when Armstead potentially retires in the next season or two as well. So keeping Keon Smith around is important. I'm a huge fan of Keon Smith. I'm still, hold on, let me see. The chat's blocked right now. Okay. I'm still on the fence of letting Lamb go in favor of Keon Smith for the future if we only keep 4 tackles. Yeah, I think that's a tough call. That's why I've been saying, like, if there's a position you keep that extra body at, personally for me, I would have it be at O-line, keeping 10 instead of 9, because a lot of O-line injuries happen. It's happened in the past. It's also probably your weakest group when you think about it, especially the interior. Like, your whole offensive line group is probably your weakest group compared to the rest of the offense. So I don't mind keeping Keon and Kendall, because obviously they're going to keep, like, you just drafted Patrick Paul, so he's obviously going to be there. But how much are you expecting him to play in year 1? Who knows? Yeah. See, but to me, you just keep 2 quarterbacks. Keep 2 quarterbacks, and you keep that extra offensive line. That's where I would add like the extra spot too. And Keon's a dog. Really improved. Still pretty young too. He can be your swing tackle of the future. When he came out of college, he was pretty raw, but has shown a lot of improvement. Like, he's a really good athlete, has like your ideal length. He's really only a tackle only, like Kendall Lamb, Austin Jackson, Keon Smith, Terron, Armstead, Patrick Paul. All 5 of those tackles are tackle only players. Like, none of them really have guard versatility, in my opinion, which kind of sucks. Some of the other players though, like Jack Driscoll can play tackle and guard. He's done in the past. I guess Eichenberg has played tackle in the past, but I would not play him there. I feel like Driscoll is probably the only one that I could see playing like all the way across the board, like every spot. Isaiah Wynn too has tackle experience, but he's definitely better at guard. Do you keep White or Skyler? I mean, to be honest, as you said, I'm not thrilled with either. I think Mike White is like slightly better, but like if Skyler and him are pretty even, I'd rather just keep Skyler because I think you could save money on getting rid of White. But also you have to think, do they think they could get Skyler? Who's more likely do they think they can get on the practice squad, you know? Because you keep one on the practice squad and then you can elevate them whenever you want. So that could also play a factor into it. And I don't really know, to be honest. I feel like teams would probably pick up Mike White as like a backup. I think I could see Skyler getting through. Eichenberg tackle days are over. Oh yeah, Eichenberg could not play. I'm just saying, yeah, he played tackle in college, but he cannot play tackle at the next level. Also, Hardison is intriguing at quarterback. But yeah, right back to the O-line. Talked about Lamb. Really, yeah, big fan of Keon Smith. Length, ideal length, athleticism. Plays with good play strength. And still could work on his hands too, like hand placement and timing and all of that. Could still become more consistent. He has improved though. I like the improvement he showed in those areas. I've made a lot of videos breaking down Keon Smith, so people can check that out if they want to see all my stuff on Keon, because I'm a huge fan of Keon Smith. Definitely one of my favorite underrated guys on the roster. The only problem is I do think he is on like the roster bubble, like he still has to fight for a spot. He is not guaranteed. And I do think if he gets cut, he showed enough in the regular season last year and in the preseason last year where I think he gets claimed. Like I feel like teams would be pretty stupid to let him go unclaimed. Good day, I love your videos and takes on the players. Oh, I appreciate that, Michael. Just love watching film. Definitely big passion of mine is just going through. I feel like I've watched a lot of these players so many times. I'll probably do another O-line breakdown soon. I might do one on Driscoll because we'll get to the Driscoll here in a second. But to finish up the tackles, we talked about all the tackles except Patrick Paul, which people know my opinion on Patrick Paul. I haven't talked about him in a while. He is a player I am excited to see in the preseason, though, because I want to see if there's been any signs of improvement. I think that is good. You know, he's still young. He's a good athlete, not a great athlete, in my opinion. He's not like an elite athlete. Like, he's got great size. Like, his size is insane. And I think for his size, he's a pretty good athlete. Which to me gives him some decent upside, but I just don't have as high as upside as other people, because I think other people see him as like an elite athlete, elite physical with his size. I don't quite see that on film, but because he does lack a lot of the technical ability, so he needs a lot of development. I don't expect to see much of him in year one, but in year two, I think, you know, he could see some playing time. We'll see how that all ends up playing out. But to me, when you really would expect to see the jump would be year three, if that does happen. But he's not the player I'm highest on, to be honest. I don't want to, lie. Definitely, because that's how, I felt pre-draft about Paul coming out of Houston. He was really sloppy when it came to, his hand placement, his footwork, all of that, over lunging. He has some dominant reps, but they were just very, few and far and in between. So it's not a bad upside pick, not the pick I would have made. But with your tackle room right now, he does not have to really be forced into playing time. But I am interested to see how he looks in preseason and see, what Butch Berry can do with him. And I do have some faith in Butch Berry because he showed, I feel like every player last year that needed improvement on the O-line that we saw, like at least, like Austin Jackson, even players like Keon Smith. You watched Keon Smith in the previous preseason, he looked like, just pedestrian out there. There's nothing to really talk about. But Keon Smith improved. Eichenberg improved even. Even someone like Lester Cotton, who I don't think is good and should not make the team, looked better than he did in the past. So, people were improving across the board. Like, Isaiah Wynn looked better than he ever did at New England. So those are all big pluses in my opinion. So yeah, that's the tackles. We'll go with the centers next. Aaron Brewer. Now, I feel like people are actually kind of mixed on Brewer. I actually have very high hopes for Brewer. Feel like I'm probably one of the higher people on Brewer when it comes to him, and this because I just think his fit is ideal. Like, if you could have found Brewer the best fit for him schematically, it would have been this Dolphins offense. It's exactly what they need. Like, I think Connor Williams going down last year actually hurt the Dolphins pretty dramatically. Especially when it came to the running game, like consistency wise, like the Dolphins needed a center that has this lateral range. Like, it's definitely the most important at center, I think, in this system. Because at guard, they kind of got away. You just have to think of alignment going left and right. Like, you didn't always need your guards. Like, you didn't always ask them to like cut people off, especially when it was like, some play side runs. On backside runs, they definitely had to cut people off a decent amount. But definitely feel confident with him at center in the system. Like, the super athlete, he's going to help the running game so much on a consistency level. He fits exactly what they're going to do. You're going to see players like Achane, Mostert feast on, those outside C-gap runs, could be tosses, move him out in space. He's also great as a, out in spaces like on screens and stuff like that, which the Dolphins love to do. Or whether it's like reverses. They ask their center to move a lot. I think, he's going to help a lot in that area. And I know people have questions about his pass protection. His pass protection does need work, but I don't think it's as bad as people have made it out to be overall. And I think the system, I think one thing people don't think about is the system he's coming into. If you watch Tennessee, their quarterbacks held onto the ball a very long time compared to what Tua does. So that will just help his pass protection out like a lot right away, just from Tua getting rid of the ball quickly. And you also have to think of the system. The center gets a lot of help in pass protection. It's a lot of play action. It's a lot of sliding. Not a lot of true one-on-ones for the center within this scheme. So I'm not too worried about the pass protection stuff because he can be protected very, very easily if that's what McDaniel wants. So definitely not too worried about that. But I think he will help out the running game so much. Like, he's out here diving at people, but he cuts people off. He's just such a natural mover. And even when he's got to just straight baseball people down the field, like he'll play with some nastiness. Like, he's undersized, but he has a nastiness in the run game. Look at his hips getting across people, cutting them off, doing it like it's nothing, getting to the next level and cutting linebackers off on these toss plays. And this is from the Tennessee where they ran a lot of outside zone. They run so much outside zone as well. Like this play is insane, bro. Like, centers, like, this is a 2-eye, and, you got to reach the 2-eye. Definitely a tough ask for centers on the play side of this, lead toss. And he just gets it instantly cuts him off, takes a perfect angle to the point of attack. And that's exactly what you want in this system, just creating so much space. So I love this signing. I think it's like the ideal signing for the Dolphins at this position. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I think he's had some injuries through OTAs and hasn't practiced much, so we'll see how that ends up playing out. And then really your backup center, I guess. I guess that's Eichenberg, unfortunately. Okay, let me see. I can see Chubb's 53 spot going no line in the beginning, giving offense 26 players. Yeah, that's a decent point. Brewer's size is deceptive, plays a lot bigger. Yeah, he definitely plays tough, especially in the running game. Like, I think he can work on his anchor and pass protection, but like, he's going to go out there and try to bully you. Definitely has that mentality. I think it's similar to Jackson. Like, Austin Jackson was never the biggest, most powerful guy, but he did go out there and bully some people in the running game, even when he wasn't the best. But yeah, lots of confidence, I think, there. I feel pretty good about the starting spots at tackle and the depth at tackle, and then I feel good about the starting center. Not the depth at center, though. Don't feel great about the depth at center. And now let's get into the guard group, because we'll go, Liam is in that guard group, but also kind of the backup center at this point. Got Isaiah Wynn, Robert Jones, Jack Driscoll. I guess we could throw, Lester Cotton. You've had some other bodies here in the mix. But we'll start with Isaiah Wynn, because I think Isaiah Wynn is the most likely of those guys to win a starting job. I feel pretty good about him being the starting left guard. Now, he does also have an injury history. That's like the biggest problem with this O-line. They just have injury histories across the board. Pretty much everyone. Wynn similarly to Armstead has struggled to like play a full season throughout his career. He looked very good in the Dolphins offense last year. Here, let me run through some Wynn clips. I think I posted this one on Twitter. Doesn't look great quality, but I actually think the Dolphins missed him a lot last year when he got hurt. Because, like, look how often they would slide protection away from him and isolate him on a defensive tackle. And he just won his one-on-ones because he was great in pass protection. As a run blocker, I think, there's some stuff to be desired. That wasn't holding on him. Someone kept telling me that was holding on him. No, that was a face mask penalty. But, he's a good athlete, so he gets the job done on some outside zone calls, but he's not much of a mover as a run blocker. But in pass protection, man, look at him just constantly isolated, whether they slide protection away, showing off anchor. He has great feet to mirror and match, good hand placement, resetting. This hurt the offense so much more than people think when he went away, because the left guards behind him, they could not do this as much. So it changed up some of the play calling. Tua wasn't able to be as comfortable in the pocket. I feel like, some of the stuff got stale offensively. Like they kind of had to run some of the same stuff, get rid of the ball even quicker than they wanted to, which hurt them. So I think having Wynn at left guard helps out the offense, especially the passing game. And he'll get the job done on like those tosses and stuff, because he is very athletic. Like he'll cut people off. I just don't think when he has to like straight up square someone up, base block, down block someone, he's going to create much movement. I don't really think that's his style of game. But I was a fan of the Isaiah Wynn signing. Like I always feel like there's these other fan bases, like Patriots fans said Isaiah Wynn was their Liam Eichenberg, and then I was watching the film like this guy's much better than Liam Eichenberg, like and fits the scheme perfectly. I feel like scheme fit. Like Cowboys fans said Connor Williams wasn't going to be good, and ended up being one of the best centers on the Dolphins. Broncos fans were saying Butch Barry was going to be a horrible line coach. That's why I feel like I just don't even listen to other fan bases anymore, because a change of scenery can really help out a player, and I think Isaiah Wynn ended up in the perfect situation for him. Hopefully he stays healthy, but when healthy, I have pretty solid confidence in him as a left guard within this system, specifically in pass protection. But you do need depth. Armstead, Wynn, Brewer, AJ are absolute locks in my mind. I have Ike as the leader for right guard, but definitely not a lock. Yeah, right guard is definitely the biggest question mark. I would say I agree, pretty much locks across the board. I think Wynn is the only one that's maybe not a lock from injury. I don't know what he's returning to. But he is like, if he's healthy, like I think he's fairly locked up at the left guard spot. And I will say this, I do think the right guard spot, because I think the rest of the players, Eichenberg, Robert Jones, and Driscoll, they're all more right guards than left guards, which I think plays a part in that too. They all fit more of that right guard spot. I think Liam is someone who's kind of done both, but Driscoll's played mostly right guard, right tackle. And then Robert Jones, I think, is better at right guard than left guard. Plus, his play style fits the right guard position more. But we'll talk about Eichenberg next. Liam, another one of those players who I think the fan base has seen in a similar fashion to what Austin Jackson was last year before his breakout season. Don't have a lot of confidence. He was another guy I didn't really like that pick. I love the 2021 draft. Waddle, Phillips, Holland were all probably my favorite players to watch at their positions. I didn't love the Eichenberg pick. I remember I either wanted Creed Humphrey or Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, which I think would have been better picks, both of them. I think Eichenberg's fine as depth. Personally, I wouldn't start him at right guard. I think he has a chance to win the starting right guard spot because of that draft position. I think Greer still really likes him. I just don't think he's the greatest scheme fit. Like he does a decent job in the running game, but he's not the greatest athlete. Like he'll cut people off. I think he does a good job understanding leverage, positioning, things like that. Definitely more comfortable with him at guard than center. Like he played better at center later on in the season, but still was not great. So if he has to be a depth guy, that's fine with me. Personally, don't want him starting. If he has to start a couple of games, I think you can live with that. But the whole season, he would have to make a huge jump, which I do think he will be better. I want to say this. I do think if he does play, he will be better because he was showing improvement last year. And he was playing through injuries at the end of the year, which I think, hurt him a bit. And really only his worst games came when he first came back in. Like when that first game against Buffalo at center, he was awful, god awful. Then after that, he played much more consistent. There was I think the first game against the Jets, he actually played really well. And then might have been the Washington game. I think he played decent as well. But yeah, just a guy I would prefer to be as a backup. But yeah, I could see him being the right guard. I think really all of those spots up for grabs when it comes to Eichenberg, Robert Jones, Driscoll. But I kind of see Eichenberg and Robert Jones in the same sense as they're kind of... I think Eichenberg is actually a better fit for the Dolphins offense when it comes to run blocking, because he does a really good job of cutting people off on those outside zone, those tosses, whether he's on the backside or play side. He really does understand positioning and leverage. And I would say his first step laterally is actually pretty good. He's not the greatest athlete. I think Robert Jones... I actually like Robert Jones as a depth guy. I think he's always stepped up and played pretty solidly for the Dolphins, and I got to give him a lot of respect for that. Coming out of nowhere. But I do think he is probably a better fit in those gap scheme systems. He has more of that power, nastiness play style, which I like. And I do think right guard is the position you can kind of get away with that in the Dolphins system. They kind of value the athleticism kind of more at all the other spots. At right guard, they do like Robert Hunt, who was a good athlete, but was always more of that nastiness play style. So I do think that's why Robert Jones fits into more of that power, move people guys. They want more of that like super athlete at center. They value that more. But I do think he's still in the running. I like him more as a depth guy. I like him more than Eichenberg personally as well. And yeah, having him around pretty solid. He'll go out there, get his job done. I think he's a guy that can play left guard and right guard. Pretty solid guard depth, though, in my opinion. He's another guard depth, same as Eichenberg. But Eichenberg can be center and guard depth. And then Eichenberg did play really injured last year for us, so that was very impactful. Yep. He definitely looked injured, and he talked about like he probably shouldn't have been playing, which hurt. But I do think he'll be better than people expect, but I still don't think like he is a starter level player. I think at best he'll be like a low level starter. Like that's like the ceiling in my opinion for Eichenberg, like a low level starter. But to me, I think I see him as like a solid depth guy. And then Driscoll, I've talked about Jack Driscoll a lot. I'm actually a fan of Driscoll within this offense. I kind of see him in the same vein as Isaiah Wynn, except he's a right guard instead of a left guard. Within this offense, like he in 2021 he played right guard for Philadelphia. He spent the last few seasons as their swing tackle, playing like right tackle when Lane Johnson goes down, playing some left tackle too. So he has experience, playing in those games, or at that position. So he can be like a swing tackle if that's what they needed. But he's definitely in the running, I think, for a guard spot. He actually was a pretty good guard back in 2021 when he had to play that. And he's a very good athlete, definitely better in pass protection than he is as a run blocker. So I wonder if that is what maybe they value more the pass protection at the left guard spot, and maybe they want more of a mauler at the right guard spot. So maybe that's why they would end up going with Robert Jones or Eichenberg at right guard. So they slide protection, away and let Wynn work that left guard spot. But maybe Driscoll can, if Wynn goes down, Driscoll could play that left guard spot and fill in for that role that Wynn has played, because I do think Wynn and Driscoll are kind of similar. You could start them both, feel pretty comfortable in pass protection, and slide your protection to both sides, make them both get their one-on-ones, because they're both really good athletes. They have really good mirror and match ability, great feet. Like Driscoll's range is really good. I do think like his play strength needs some work. Not much of like he's going to move people. He is a good mover. Like he'll cut people off in the running game. He can do some pulling stuff too. But I kind of lean towards him as the starting right guard, but I really could see that spot going either way. Yeah, props to Alex for playing. Hit the like button. Yeah, hit the like button. I don't even know what the like. I don't even see what the stream right now, so I don't know what it's looking like. But if you guys have questions, leave them down below. We can talk about it. But yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, what do you guys think about the guard spots? Do you feel like Isaiah Wynn is pretty much a left guard, and then like right guard? Who do you guys feel right now? Because I don't feel like anyone has a super confident opinion about right guard right now. Didn't Driscoll play all 5 positions in Philly as well? I've definitely seen him play both tackle spots and right guard. I think he might have played some left guard too. I don't know about center, but apparently they were working. Wasn't Driscoll working at center while someone was hurt or something? They were giving him some snaps. Yeah, I think he's a pretty versatile guy. That helps. And I could see that being a reason why maybe he doesn't start, is because he's more like Isaiah Wynn, and they want guards, left guard and right guard, to be kind of different players with different skill sets. And then maybe if someone goes down on the interior, Driscoll would be that first guy to be like, oh, he can play left guard, right guard, center if you really wanted him to. I do like the Driscoll pickup, whether he has to start or be depth, because I do think he's a good scheme fit. And at least depth-wise, I think, he's a guy that's versatile and is going to give you at least something better than some of these other depth guys, and could potentially be a better starter than like Robert Jones and Eichenberg at right guard. Because he did look pretty good at right guard on some of the plays I watched from his 2021 stuff, which I might go back and just break down him starting at right guard, because I think that would be pretty interesting. Within Philly, like he looked good at right guard. I'm pretty sure PFF had him. I don't really care too much for PFF, but I'm pretty sure PFF had him rated pretty highly. And I think sometimes he could like at tackle when he played as a swing tackle, he could struggle more out in space. It's something Isaiah Wynn kind of struggled with too. Like being more constricted area at guard made him even better in pass protection, and then it allowed him, in the running game to be a little more of a cutoff guy. Be more used as a puller, kick people out. Not used much as like a square people up and drive, but definitely some of the right guard stuff was pretty good. So okay, Armstead, Winbrewer, Eichenberg, AJ for screening, Paul, Lamb, Keon, Driscoll, and we carry channel line. Use Joseph, my guess right now. Okay, not a bad guess. Let me look at the edge spot for the. Okay, we have Phillips, Chubb, obviously, but if Chubb starts on IR, which I think is likely, you have Phillips, Barrett, Chop, and then probably Mo Kamara, and that's 4, right? Phillips, Chop, Shaq. Do you just roll with 4 edges in? Is that what you're saying, or do you keep like, you keep a guy like Cam Good, or do you keep Grayson Murphy as a UDFA? They have some other bodies there like Quentin Bell. Do you just keep 4 edges initially, or do you still keep 5? Because I wouldn't mind keeping Grayson Murphy around if they're gonna put Chubb on the IR. But I guess you could roll with 4, because in the Ravens system, I'm pretty sure they used mostly a 3-man rotation at starters. Like they rotated they had a 5-man rotation at D tackle, but they mainly just used like a 3-man rotation at edge. Yep, those 4 edges. Okay, yeah. I think you could get away with 4 edges for a few games. Plus, you might be able to keep some of these guys in the practice squad, like they kept Quentin Bell in the practice squad last year. Maybe Cameron Good, but he's coming off an injury. I do like Grayson Murphy a lot. I don't know if he'll make the practice squad, but I would be a big fan of him staying around. But yeah, those are the clicking buttons I'm not supposed to. Okay. Yeah, those are the O-linemen pretty much that I want to talk about. Like at least some of the starters. We'll go into some of the depth guys that probably won't make the roster, but don't mind keeping them around the practice squad. Ryan Hayes, 7th round pick last year. Actually kind of surprised me coming out of Michigan. He played tackle at Michigan, but I actually thought he would be more of a guard just due to like his size, athleticism, skill set at the next level. But he actually looked pretty solid in the preseason at tackle. The Dolphins just couldn't keep him around, and then they cut him, right? And then he went somewhere else. I think he went to Tennessee. And then Tennessee ended up cutting him as well after they claimed him, and the Dolphins got him back on the practice squad, which I think is pretty good. Keeping Ryan Hayes on the practice squad, I think would probably be my first choice out of these guys to keep on the practice squad, because you draft him in the 7th rounder. He actually looked pretty reliable in preseason. He kind of looked like him and Keon Smith were probably the surprises to me at preseason last year. I'm like, oh, Ryan Hayes actually looked pretty solid at left tackle in his reps, which it's preseason, so it's nothing crazy, but he looked just better than I was expecting. Sealer, Campbell, Tart, Jones, Harris, Gallimore, Phillips, Brooks, Long, Walker, Brown, and 10 TDs. That's my defense to start the season. Okay, so Sealer, Campbell, Tart, Jones, Harris, Gallimore. So you're keeping. Let me look. Okay, so you're keeping Harris over Hand. Okay, I think that's I'm not mad about that. I think that one could go either way. Harris versus Hand, and then you're keeping. Let's see. Brooks, Long, Walker, agreed. And then you're going to keep Cam Brown for special teams over like Tyndall and Duke Riley. I wouldn't be mad about that either. I don't know much about. I haven't seen Cam Brown play. I know he's a good special teamer, but I don't know any film on him. But I do think keeping one of those guys like a special teamers. Plus, Cam Brown does have an intriguing. I know he has a really interesting length, athleticism skill set. So if he did have to play, I could see him playing like that Sam role, like what I think Harrison played last year for Baltimore. If they wanted to ever see him get playing time, that would be interesting. He is kind of the one guy that would fit that role on this team. They don't really have. But yeah, back to the O-line. Ryan Hayes, definitely not mad. There's also Bayron Matos. He's the international guy, so I could see him being like the international practice squad player, right? That's what I'm guessing is going to happen, because I think you get an international practice squad spot, and he's the only player there. And I totally forget where he came from, but he didn't play at all in college. He played some other sport, I'm pretty sure. And just is a super freak physical size athlete guy. So I don't have any opinion on him as a player, but he'll probably be your international practice squad player. But yeah, wouldn't mind Ryan Hayes making the practice squad. And then I could see the two undrafted guys, Matthew Jones, Andrew Meyer, fighting for a practice squad spot. Like I could see them keeping one of them because they're both kind of similar. Mayer played at UTEP as a center. Jones played at Ohio State as a guard, but he has some good center tape. Mayer's a really good athlete, but really lacks like the ideal play strength to play at the next level. So he has to add on some muscle and his work on his like core strength, work on his ability to anchor and pass protection. But he's a really good mover. Matthew Jones played some center last season when the center got hurt and actually looked really solid. So I wouldn't mind keeping either of those guys on the practice squad, especially because both can play center. And I don't feel too good about the center depth on the roster. So I think you should, if you're going to keep some guys, you have your international practice squad, and then you keep like Ryan Hayes, who could be like a tackle, and then maybe you keep Matthew Jones, Ohio State, as like, because last year they kept a center on the practice squad. They kept that other guy from San Diego State. I forget his name. But yeah, then you keep this Matthew Jones, I think, or maybe Andrew Meyer, or whoever, looks better in the preseason. I'm excited to see a lot of the UDFAs because I don't think a lot of these UDFAs will make the roster. Most of them, I'm thinking pretty much all of them probably won't. But they do have a chance. If they really show out in preseason, then I think, sometimes you're kind of forced to be like, okay, let's keep this guy on the roster over someone, or keep him just as an extra spot. But I think a lot of these guys can be UDFAs, or a lot of the UDFAs can be practice squad guys, which still end up, sometimes practice squad guys see plenty of playing time depending on injuries and stuff. So I kind of like Ryan Hayes, Matthew Jones, Andrew Meyer as potential practice squad guys. Everyone else, I'm not sure too much about Chasen Hines. I think he's from New England. He was around here last year. He was like a good athlete player, but I just don't know too much about him film-wise. I just remember that he played with a lot of athleticism, but I really can't remember anything else about him, so I don't have too many opinions. I see guys like Murphy and Duck on the practice squad as well. Yeah, I think you have a good, yeah. It just depends if they get picked up. But I do think, yeah, if Grayson clears claims, then yeah, you keep him on the practice squad for sure. It also depends, like sometimes like that's the tough things about these UDFAs in preseason. If they do play well, then they're most likely going to get claimed somewhere else if you cut them. Like, because preseason is like really where all those scouts are watching film for like the claim time of the year. So you have to hope they just look like pretty solid in preseason. Hopefully maybe it's like they look good in one game and then you just shut them down and be like, okay, we're going to get these guys, hopefully get these guys in the practice squad. And then Duck's another good shout. Like Duck, I could see like a Mark Perry as well, for DBs. Knowing Lamb is only here for 1 year messes the numbers up. Armstead might be 1 year. I think they have to find a way to keep Keon as a swing for next year unless they plan on Driscoll. Yeah, Jason, I talked about that early on. That's another fact. Like I would, even if that wasn't the case, I would be trying to keep Keon Smith, but that also is another factor. Like Lamb is for sure gone. And then you have to think like Armstead is probably pretty like 50-50 gone next year. And then you have Patrick Paul, who's like, do you think Patrick Paul will be ready for next year even with that too? But you're probably going to swing Patrick Paul into as your starter before you would Keon. But I would love to keep Keon around. And that's why I'm thinking of keeping an extra body there. Can Lamb play guard? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure, I mean, for most of his career, he's been a tackle. I think he's even talked about like, I think even Lamb said he doesn't play guard and he just doesn't have the skill set for it. Didn't we have a Murphy type linebacker last year as well in training camp? Damn, I forget his name. Depends who you're talking. Like like an edge that could like move around a little bit because, they still have what's his name on here. They still have that Ezekiel Vandenberg guy who was an undrafted player, but he got hurt. Maybe you're thinking of Mitchell Agude from he was from the U. I'm pretty sure Miami. I'm not sure. I think they picked up multiple edges last year that were like UDFAs. Yeah, Lamb. That's what I was saying earlier. I don't think any of the tackles on the Dolphins roster can really play guard. Like Armstead can't, Paul can't, Lamb can't, Keon. They tried playing Keon Smith at guard in preseason. Hopefully he improves. I would be trying to work Keon Smith at guard in preseason because we already know what Keon Smith can look like at tackle. But I would be trying to give him reps at preseason at guard. But he looked really good at tackle last preseason and looked really bad at guard. So hopefully he can improve. But I still don't feel that confident about it. And then Jackson is your right tackle. I actually do think Jackson could play right guard and not be that bad. but he is definitely a better tackle than guard. Aubrey Miller, well, he was more of like an off-ball guy, and Grayson's more of an edge, but can move around. A lot of people liked Aubrey Miller, but Aubrey Miller was like, he was a big hitter. He was like out of, wasn't he out of that school where, what was the school? I think where Dion coached previously before Colorado. But he was just like a big hitter, but didn't play with, like, he wasn't a super athlete, didn't play with a ton of instincts, but like he would destroy you if he got a clean hit. But yeah, Aubrey Miller, people like that. Any other O lineman here? The only other O line on this list is Ireland Brown. I think it's another. He's another UDFA, but he was like one that they signed after, like, you know, those camps, like. So he was like a tryout guy basically. He's from Rutgers, and you know, I'm not expecting him really to stick around even on practice squad. Usually those guys have like a really outside chance, but he is a really good athlete. That's all I know about him though. There was not much film. Jackson State, yeah. Yeah. I knew it was Jackson something. State was probably very obvious, and I just didn't say it. Yeah, that's the. Did he end up anywhere? I don't know. I didn't personally. I wasn't like super high on him. But who knows? Yeah, so we've gone through all these groups. Now we've gone through safety, tight end, D line, receiver, now O line. I think that's everyone. So we still have tried before training camp, or even during the training when training camp starts. We'll still go through like quarterback, running back. Now we'll finish up offense, and then we still have to go through edges, off-ball linebackers, and corners, which will be fun. I'm trying to think who I should make a video on next. I might make a video on Jack Driscoll. I kind of want to make a video on Kohu as well, as seeing like how Kohu will fit in the new system, because I feel like, you know, there's not a ton of talk about Cater, especially after his down second year. So we'll see if he can bounce back, especially playing just strictly the slot, but who ends up knowing. That'll be interesting, but yeah. Health is the most important factor for the line. Yeah, probably the most important factor for the whole team. Could we have a rotation on a line? Like if you mean like rotating throughout the game, I doubt it. I could see a world where like early on they rotate O linemen just to see, because they've done it before where like you kind of see who fits better. And I wouldn't be surprised like if they kind of rotated out the right guard spot at the beginning just to see who ends up working best in live action. So that wouldn't surprise me, but like an actual rotation, I don't really see that. You know, players will go down, and you know, you'll rotate players in and out just due to injuries and stuff, but I could see it in like the first game, because like in the first game last year, was it the first game last year? I know there was a game last year they were rotating out the linebackers for sure, like trying to see who fit the linebackers best. But then there was a game where they were switching off drives, right? I feel like Eichenberg would play a drive, and then the other right guard would play a drive or something like that. Maybe that wasn't last year, maybe that was 2 years ago, but it's definitely been a time where it's happened, but I don't think it's something that should be a full-time thing. Like, O-line consistency and like building that, you know, chemistry together is very important on an offensive line. So you just got to find the best fit, and once you find the best fit, that's what you roll with. Yeah, you want to find it by training camp. I agree, Scotty. You got to find it quick. Personally, I don't know who the best fit is right now. I think Jack Driscoll is just the best scheme fit, but will he be the best fit for what they need? Because if they want more of a nasty player at O-line on the right guard, then they probably would roll with someone like Robert Jones, even Eichenberg. Because they're better run blockers, but Driscoll's the better pass protector. Jones at right guard works for inside zone. Yeah, and Robert Jones is more of an inside zone gap scheme type of guy, and that's kind of where definitely Jalen Wright's experience comes from. I'm excited to see Jalen Wright in preseason too, because I want to see how he works on outside zone, because he very rarely got to work on outside zone concepts at Tennessee. Like they never ran that, and that's what we've like primarily run. So like he has to still do that. But I wouldn't mind, you know, seeing more inside zone stuff out of the Dolphins this year. But yeah. That's the O-line. Any more, questions about the O-line or just like any positions in there? We can just talk anything because what's been the talk on like Dolphin stuff? I know there's been talk on Tua and the contract stuff. We don't need to really get into that too much. I know people are like, I'm just going to see how that one plays out, because people said they were less confident and then someone else came out saying like they're still confident and it gets done. I mean, I would be surprised if they didn't end up extending him at some point. Yeah, the quicker the better. Let the same five get as many reps together as possible, especially our team pass offs. Yeah, I agree. O-line is definitely an intriguing group because we get to see like people fighting for like at all these spots. We get like a lot of the spots we get to see people fighting for roster spots, which we do see still on the O-line. We'll see some people fighting for roster spots. Not as much here, but at O-line we get to see people fighting for like a starting spot, which at other spots that's not necessarily the case. Like tight end, we're watching people fight for roster spot. Safety, we could potentially see people fighting for a starting spot, but also roster spots. Same thing with D-line, we're watching people fight for roster spots. So it'll be interesting. My opinion has zero impact on his contract. Yeah, I mean, it's not my money, and we'll see how the contract ends up looking. Because here's how I look at it, right? Whether you extend him or not, Tua's probably going to be here for the next couple years either way, right? Because he's on your fifth year. He's on a fifth year option, and then if you didn't extend him, you leave him on the fifth year option, and then you probably also franchise tag him because there's not a lot of other options out there at quarterback. So say you don't extend him, that happens. He's still your quarterback for 2 years. I'd rather just extend him now, and if it didn't work out, you could get out of the contract in a few years. And there's really not. If you look at the draft, there's not options to replace him. So even if you were thinking like, I'm not one of the people trying to replace him. I think Tua's good. I think a lot of people really underrate him. I don't really get it. He's a perfect fit for this scheme. Either way, whether you extend him or not, he's probably going to be the quarterback here for another couple seasons anyways. Might as well extend him. And then if it does work out, then you have him on a cheaper contract and that the contract looks good in a few years. You know what I'm saying? That's just my logic behind it. Yeah, Chase Edmonds was not an outside zone guy. I have a friend who I trust that is a huge Seahawks fan. When he asked about Jordan Brooks, he has mixed reviews. He has missed, but missed. He made a lot of tackles, missed a lot as well. Thoughts? I'm a big fan of Jordan Brooks. I think he's a perfect scheme fit for the system. I know Seahawks fans have mixed feelings about him. I don't think he's like a perfect player. He will miss some tackles. I think he's definitely better in coverage than he is as a run defender. I do think he has good like range as a run defender. But overall, he flies around the field. I just think scheme fit wise, he's gonna like play that Roquan Smith role and make that impact. So I feel like he ended up in the perfect spot for his skill set. I'm confident in it, and I've had fans of other teams tell me things like Jordan. Like I've seen Seahawks fans say negative things about Jordan Brooks. I talked about it earlier. Like Cowboys fans said negative things about Connor Williams, but when I watched the film, I was like, oh, he's going to fit perfectly on the interior for the Dolphins, which he ended up being one of the better centers of the league. Same with Isaiah Wynn. Patriots fans said he was an Eichenberg player, like an Eichenberg level player. I'm like, I didn't see that at all. Like he looked bad at tackle, but I'm like, he's not going to play tackle on the Dolphins. He's going to play guard. And he looked better there. Butch Berry, Broncos fans said he was a horrible line coach and he's turned around the O-line in the first season. So I don't put too much stock in other like fans' opinion because I do think like changing teams, changing schemes can really change a player. Plus, Brooks played like last year. He was coming off a torn ACL and he still looked pretty solid in my opinion. So I expect him to be even better. But we'll see. Wait, Mostert at the parade yesterday? Oh yeah, he was at the Panthers parade, right? Yeah, I saw him holding up the Stanley Cup. Also said Brooks wasn't as good in coverage as he is being made out to be. Yeah, well, people think Brooks isn't good in coverage because of PFF for some reason. PFF has them low. PFF like has certain grades that are very like flawed. So like they don't grade linebackers like in coverage if they're not targeted. So they only grade targeted reps. So like all the reps where he's untargeted, they're not grading. So to me, they're very flawed, and I actually think he's very good in coverage. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. Trade Uno, yeah, okay. Hard cap hit on a franchise tag would severely limit us. Yeah, I would not be a fan of that move. This is last year in Miami. I don't think so. If they kept 3 tight ends and Hill, what does Smythe? If they keep 3 tight ends and Hill does what Smythe can do. Do you think Smythe gets cut? Now, I've thought about this before, and personally, I wouldn't mind keeping Julian Hill over Durham Smythe. Do I think that's what the Dolphins do? No. I think the Dolphins really like Smythe. They think he's the guy who's been around. He understands the system. He's just very reliable. Now, I do think Julian Hill will go out there and give you more high-level run blocks, but he's more inconsistent with it. And I think the Dolphins just value consistency. Now, I am totally not against keeping like Johnny Smith, Julian Hill, and Jody Fortson. I would not be against that if they wanted to keep 3 tight ends and got rid of Smythe. But I don't think the Dolphins would do that personally. But yeah, we'll see how it all ends up playing out. Yeah, O-line group, definitely, I would say interior O-line is one I have like the biggest question marks. I like Smythe. Yeah, I like Smythe too. I think he's solid as a tight end too. I think he gets the job done. But he just doesn't do anything special in my opinion. I just think the Dolphins do value that consistency. Like he is a consistent player across the board. Like he's consistent as a run blocker, but he's not like a big mover out there. He's consistent with his hands, but he's not going to like get open, create a bunch of separation. But I just think, Johnny Smith gives you way more as a receiver, and especially with the ball in his hands. I think Julian Hill potentially gives you more like high-end level run blocking reps, and I think Fortson also gives you more as a receiver. But Smythe, I don't see them cutting him. I would be pretty surprised if it happened. But I'm not against the idea. That's one idea I'm not actually against. But yeah, that's kind of everyone. I didn't spend too much time talking about Patrick Paul, but we know my opinion on Patrick Paul. I've talked about him a lot. Yeah, I was gonna say Smythe was restructured, so that means he would be all dead cap. I didn't know exactly the numbers, but that was also a thing in my mind. I'm like, I don't know if they would save money from cutting him because they did just restructure him, and usually when that happens, you're not saving too much. So, yeah, definitely. I do like the tight end group though. It's definitely improved from last year. It's not an elite group or anything, but I definitely feel better about it. Hello, we know deep down you love Paul. Yeah, I've been hiding it all along. I actually hope I hope Paul proves me wrong. Is Connor Williams wanting to move on more about him playing center, or does he feel slighted we didn't pay him last year? I'm sure he feels slighted about it, but I do feel like I think it's the center thing is more important, because I do think even if he was slighted, right? I think if the Dolphins were like come back and play starting center, like I still think he would be like considering it. So I think it's the center thing. I think he found his spot as center. He knows that's where he can make his most money and like prolong his career at. So I think it's the center thing, and like he's not going to play center right now for the Dolphins coming off that injury. The Dolphins signed Brewer to a pretty solid deal. It's just not in the card. So I think the center thing is the big thing. But I'm sure that the second part also plays a part in that. If Patrick Paul performs well, do you see him starting at right tackle, moving AJ to right guard? No. I would be very surprised if that happened. Plus, I think they're trying to make him a left tackle. Plus, I just don't think Jackson is a right guard. I think he could play right guard, but I just don't think that's the right move to move Jackson finally coming off a good year from right tackle to right guard. And I would be surprised if Patrick Paul performs well enough to play right tackle year one. He's more of a developed type of player. Not getting paid and getting hurt. Basically, Greer cost him tens of millions. In my opinion, it's way more than position. Like, I guess he could feel like slighted by that, but like, I don't think the Dolphins really owed him that. Like, he's only been here like it was like going into his second season as the Dolphins. And I know he wanted an extension. Like, we literally just paid him the previous year. So, I don't know. I still think, like, if the Dolphins were willing to bring him back as a center on a new deal, I think he would still be considering it. Thoughts on using Achane and Wright as kick returners? Yeah, you're talking about the fake stuff. Honestly, I think they should be, because apparently they've done the data. They think with the new kick returner rules, there's no like extra added injury risk. So for me, I'm putting Achane and right back there because one, I'm probably trying to keep other receivers over Berrios, and Berrios' path to making the roster is being a returner, mostly a punt returner though. So I'm trying to replace him as a punt returner and a kick returner. And I do think with the new kickoff rules, it is kind of like, with how it's set up, it's more like reading like a running back hole. Running backs, I think, with vision will do pretty good there. And I do think, Achane has a lot of experience kick returning. I could see Jalen Wright doing it very well. But yeah, I'm not against either of them being back there for sure. Especially, like he just said, I want Achane RB1. I do think I also agree I would want Achane RB1, but I do think Mostert will technically be RB1, but I could see Achane getting, like, Mostert starts, but Achane gets a lot of touches. But yeah, if it doesn't add injury risk, yeah, I throw them both back there. I also be down for Malik Washington too. Especially, I think Malik could be the punt returner. I feel like Malik kind of is very reliable with his hands. Now, if he can catch punt returns, throw him back there. And he can do kickoff return stuff too. I'm not mad about that either. I think the Dolphins have plenty of bodies that they can throw back there that have potential. I wouldn't be even surprised if, like, depending on different parts of the season, if we see different people. Like, say Achane is, like, for sure the starting running back because of injuries, then Achane's not back there. Then you throw guys back there like Malik, Jalen Wright. But then, say one of them is getting more touches in a game than usual, then you could see just being like, you know what? Fuck it. We really just throw Tyreek back there for a play. Or, Jalen Waddle. But I wouldn't see them getting like actual legitimate like return stuff. Yeah, Taj also another shout because he's also a guy that I could see going back there because he could fight. That would be a path for him to the roster. Yeah, I'm definitely. Which Dolphins running back you drafting in fantasy? I would draft. Well, I know Achane is definitely the highest like ADP wise, right? I would draft Achane. I probably would be the Achane train, but if you get Mostert, I think Mostert's good value though still. I don't think he'll be as good last year because I don't see him scoring as many touchdowns as he did last year, but I still think he's going to be that red zone guy. He's still going to get a lot of touches, but Achane's going to get a lot of value touches, which I think is huge, and he has super high upside. I'm excited though. I love fantasy. I've been playing fantasy for a long time. I've won in my main league. I think I've won the most. I've won 3 times in my main league. And then I think there's a few other people that have won twice, but yeah. Been doing pretty good in fantasy. Last year, did I have any Dolphins last year? Last year I had Tua. And like we had, a QB, you start 2 quarterbacks. And I think Tua was one of my quarterbacks. And I also had Achane last year too. That was an absolute steal. Oh, yeah. Okay. Any more questions before we end here? About anything. You can ask me anything. Because I'm excited to see how this all plays out. Lots of interesting spots, interesting players here, fighting for spots, fighting for starting spots. You should start a fantasy league with channel members? Ooh, that's a good idea, actually. That's actually a really good idea. First, like, 10 people to be cut. Because I think I only have, like, 1 member on the channel. First, like, 10 channel members in the fantasy league. And then we can play with, like, a pot or whatever from whatever the gets, like, donated or something. That would be interesting, actually. Not a bad idea. Is your 10 on kickoff coverage? Oh god. Let me look through that. So Siren Neal, if Ethan Bonner makes it, Ethan Bonner. Elijah Campbell if he makes it. Cam Brown if he makes it, linebacker wise. Depending on the linebackers. So whoever the backup linebackers, I bet they both would be on it. Probably, let's see. Yeah, we need a lot of spots here. I could see like some of the edges even getting involved. If Cam Smith isn't starting, probably Cam Smith. It's tough to say just reading the roster. I need to know who makes it. You probably see one of the backup running backs being on, if we keep 4 running backs, one of them being on the as your kickoff coverage guys. Maybe even a receiver out there. But yeah, I don't know. You know any potential line cuts from other rosters? Who did I hear people talking about? Who's the Buccaneers O lineman? Kamara, yeah, Kamara. Did I say Kamara? But yeah, that's who I should have said if I didn't say that out of the edges. There's a Buccaneers alignment I've seen people talking about. I think, and they drafted I feel like Graham Barnes replacing him. People said he could get cut because of money, and he would be a good shout. I'm just forgetting his name off the top of my head. I could look at the Buccaneers depth chart, but I don't know. I haven't looked too much at other rosters, so I would have to look. I could do a stream where we just look at other rosters to see potential cuts. The only thing is though, we're probably not going to get any claims. We have to get people who are cut, not and are released. Is it? Oh yeah, Robert Hainsey. That's someone I could see. He's from Notre Dame, potential scheme fit. Wouldn't be bad to bring on because he has center, some guard versatility too. So yeah. But that's it. I don't know too much about other guys. I could see them bringing on other O linemen. I do think that's the one position I think they could still add up, even potentially now before cuts are made. But I don't know if they will because there's not really. I know there's Greg Van Roden. I'm not super high on Van Roden after watching him. I don't think he's a bad. He would make the Dolphins roster, but I wouldn't feel super great about him starting either. Oh yeah, Steelers. We could look at the Steelers depth chart. I don't know what they got, but I know they drafted everyone I liked, and they drafted they drafted Fatanu, and they drafted Frazier. Who else did they draft? Oh, they drafted McCormick too. Yeah. They have Frazier as their starting center, Fatanu as their starting right tackle, McCormick's a backup. I don't see too much on here that I'm familiar with, at least. So I'd have to watch film on them for sure. Damn Steelers. Dude, when Fatanu... do you think if the Steelers didn't draft Fatanu, the Dolphins would have drafted Fatanu over Chop? Because I saw people saying they still would have drafted Chop. But I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not saying do you think you would have drafted Fatanu or Chop? Do you think the Dolphins would have? Because I think the Dolphins would have heavily considered Fatanu there because he can play tackle and guard. That's tough. I love the draft, man. I've already been watching some 2025 guys. Definitely some interesting players there. Draft's my favorite time of the year, so looking forward to that. Also, I wonder... I don't know if I'm going to be able to do film breakdowns on Monday this year. Right after the games, because I think I don't know if I have I used to have a Connect to get the film right away, way before everyone else. I don't know if I have that anymore. So I might have to just do film breakdowns when everyone else does them, which is unfortunate. John was my favorite player, so I'm going to believe they would have. Yeah, I still think they would have. My gut tells me they would have. I don't know. Dolphins don't do anything I want, so no. They did what I wanted on day 3, for the most part. Day 1 and 2, they didn't do what I wanted. Day 1, I wasn't mad about, though. But yeah. The Fatanu one, her. Yeah, that's true. 2021, they did exactly what I wanted. Waddle was my favorite at that spot. They took Waddle. Phillips was my favorite at that spot. They took Phillips. I think Holland was the guy I wanted at that spot, from what I remember. I was thinking they were going to take Holland or Javonte Williams. That was the rumor, right? But I think I wanted Holland. So the first 3 picks, they took what I wanted in that draft. Trying to remember when did they take? I'll tell you when they didn't. What draft did they not? Okay, Charles Harris I did not want Charles Harris, and I was right on that one. They did draft, I really wanted Minkah Fitzpatrick, and they did take Minkah Fitzpatrick, which didn't work out for the Dolphins, but he is a good player. Obviously unfortunate that didn't work out, but who else did they draft? I didn't want Austin Jackson, and Austin Jackson has started to work out, so that's good. I can't remember who I wanted with their third first-round pick in that draft, but it wasn't Igbenogany. I didn't even think they were going to take Igbenogany at that spot. That one surprised me because I actually liked Igbenogany as like, but I thought he was like a third-round pick. I was like, oh, it's a third-rounder. You know, Igbenogany's got some upside. He's like a 20-year-old, barely pid the position, but actually has some good reps for some high-level people. Then they took him in the first round, and I was like, oh, that's not a good pick. No one wanted Harris. Yeah, that Harris one might have been the most disappointed I've ever been in a first-round pick, at least since I've been watching, because I've been watching the draft pretty heavily since 2012. So Tannehill was 2012. 2013 was Deion Jordan. That wasn't a good pick, but the 2013 draft was so bad. They should have took Lane Johnson, though. The Lane Johnson, taking Deion Jordan one pick before Lane Johnson. But if you go back, the 2013 draft's so bad, man. They traded from 12 to 3 and only gave up a second-round pick going from 12 to 3. That's actually insane. The value of that pick, insane, but they took Deion Jordan, who was not a good pick. Then 2014, who was that? Was that Juwan James? Yeah, it wasn't a pick I would have made, but it wasn't a terrible pick. 2015 was Devontae Parker. Who was 16? Was 16 Tunsil? Great pick. 17 was Harris, right? 17 was Harris. 18 was 18 Fitzpatrick and 19 Wilkins. And then 2020, we talked about Tua, Jackson, Igbenogany. 2021 was Waddle and Phillips. And then 2022 and 2023, they didn't have. Wait, no, they didn't have first round picks in 2022 and 2023. Unfortunate. And then obviously they just got chopped. I'm surprised I remember all that off the top of my head. Yeah. Thoughts on Deuce Vaughn in this scheme? I think, even though Deuce, I know the Cowboys might cut Deuce Vaughn. I liked him as a player coming out. I don't think he's a great fit for this scheme. I don't think he has the speed to capture the edge. Usually, I think even though he is a smaller player, he was always better as an inside runner, like inside zone and stuff. Like good vision, make people miss in tight spaces. I don't think he's a great scheme fit for the Dolphins. Deion Walker, that's a good shot. That guy's insane, bro. At his size and his versatility to that guy's a really good player. That's a good shout, Robbie. Because I've seen some of his reps, man, where he's aligned on the as an edge at his size. And his size, he's ridiculous size. I think that would be a dream. Especially in the just the top of my head, knowing what Weaver runs, I actually think that'd be one of the best picks the Dolphins can make next year. Just at this point in time, I hated Vaughn at K-State, ran all over my honors. Yeah, he's a fun player at K-State just because it's always fun to see someone just that doesn't look like they should be out there just dominating people, So I have a lot of respect for, him being 5'5", and he's a really good athlete. I do think he is I do think he belongs in the NFL. I just don't think he's a starter level player. A good shout. Deion Walker, I think, is going to be one of the highly touted players next season. Very intriguing skill set. His ability to align anywhere at his size and movement at his size. The disruption he creates, because usually people at his size are more just hold their own at point of attack versus the run, but he is creating disruption as a pass rusher. So, yeah, that's a fun one. Next year's corner class is good, which I think is interesting because I do think the Dolphins could start looking into corners next year, because even though because you signed Kendall Fuller to a 2-year deal, so you have Kendall Fuller for 2 years, but usually with your draft you're looking 2 years ahead. So by then you'll have Fuller for 1 more year. You're probably thinking, Ramsey is on the older side too. You still don't know what you got out of Cam Smith, but the next year's corner class is legit. The high-end guys are really good. Will Johnson, Benjamin Morris, they're going to go top 10. I could see them both going top 10 at this point. Vaughn has been lining up in slot in practice. Oh yeah, I heard that they've been practicing him at slot. Who's your college team again? I go to Tennessee games. I live in Tennessee now, and I go to the Tennessee games for work. I wouldn't say I'm a Tennessee fan, because I didn't grow up a Tennessee fan. I grew up in Southern California, and I actually, my first team that I became a fan of was USC, strictly because of Reggie Bush. Like, that's when I fell in love with football, watching Reggie play, man. Reggie Bush in college, like, made me fall in love with the game, man. He was so exciting to watch. And he was actually also a part when why I picked, because I didn't have an NFL team for a little bit growing up. Because all the players I loved in college started going to the NFL, and then I realized, like, I should pick an NFL team. And Reggie was on the Dolphins at the time, and I also liked a lot of players on the Dolphins. So I just picked the Dolphins because I liked Reggie Bush so much, and then I just became a hardcore Dolphins fan. So I would still consider myself a USC fan, but I'm not like as obsessed with them as I was when I'm younger. I've been way more obsessed with the Dolphins now for like the past 10 or so years. Probably longer, actually, yeah, like 12 years. But yeah, shout out Reggie Bush, got his Heisman back. One of my all-time favorite just football players in general. Ooh. Does West Virginia have any players this year? I feel like I can't remember if I saw this. Yeah, those. Oh yeah, they had they had the Thunder and Lightning at running back, Matt Leinart at quarterback. But I was also still fans even after like that area because I mean they had like the decent receivers, but even after that era, I was still a fan, like a decent fan of USC when they had like Robert Woods, Marquise Lee, those types of players. Even the players like I know like I still cute with like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Drake London actually went to the same high school that I went to, who now he's first round pick for the Falcons. He's a good player too. USC has a lot of fun players now. I was looking back, there's a lot of players like that I played against in high school are now in the NFL that I didn't even realize. Like there's an offensive lineman on the Ravens. I think he's a backup, but Patrick McCarry I played against in high school. I had to cover Michael Pittman in high school, the Colts receiver. That was fun. But there was actually a decent amount. Like Colby Parkinson, I think he's on the Rams. He's a tight end. I played against him. Matt Corral, the quarterback that played at Ole Miss. I think he's in like the whatever one of those leagues is now. But yeah. Louisville. You're a Louisville fan? Louisville had some good players last year in the draft too. I actually liked some of the Louisville players, like Garendo, Jamari Thrash. But yeah. Ooh, almost made that big screen. West Virginia was one of those teams when obviously one of the greatest college football players of all time. Arguably, probably the best college football highlights of all time, Tavon Austin. That 2013 draft was like the first draft I really studied, so I watched a lot of Tavon Austin, obviously, and Stedman Bailey. But also like when I played, like the NCAA games back in the day, I would play with West Virginia all the time, especially when they had like Pat White, Steve Slayton. Then like they went to what's it called? Yeah, then they got guys like Stedman Bailey, Tavon Austin, Geno Smith. That was a fun era. I remember watching them a lot. I always enjoyed those West Virginia teams. They were at least fun to watch. Are you kicking it into the end zone this year? Austin and Bailey ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, if you can kick it in the end zone, is it where do you kick? Isn't it much harder to kick it into the end zone now though? But if you can, yeah, you should be trying to avoid kick returns at all costs. But I think that's like the thing with the new rule. They're trying to get a lot more kick returns to happen, but make them safer. That how many views does that one Tavon Austin highlight video have? And I swear to God, everyone's seen that video. That's a legendary video. And Bailey was also pretty good. I actually thought Bailey was probably the better like receiver. Austin was obviously better with that ball in his hands, but I thought Bailey was like the better route runner. So yeah, they were fun with White and Slay. And I remember, yeah, I played a lot with them. I used to watch them. They were like one of my favorite offenses to watch when I was like younger. Those were the days. I'm excited to see how this season unfolds. You know, with the Dolphins and everything. What is happening here? Okay. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay. Used to play pickup basketball with Randy Moss. That's sick. Bruce Irvin. Oh yeah, he was from West Virginia. Yeah. I think I'm gonna end stream here. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. I'll probably have a film breakdown in like probably on Wednesday. I don't know who it will be, but we will get that one done. So later, guys.